Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Wellness Pharmacist podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kat, and today's episode is one I'm really passionate about. It's all about being your own health advocate. As patients, as I like to say, customers or clients, it's so important to take charge of your own health, especially during medical appointments where things can feel a bit overwhelming. But don't worry, today we're going to break down how you can empower yourself with tools and tips to ensure you're heard, understood, and of course actively involved in your own care. Before we dive in, though, let's not forget that advocating for yourself doesn't mean being difficult. I think there's this perception that when we speak up for ourselves that we appear difficult. It's not. It means you're informed, asking questions, and making sure you are understood and that you understand the care you're receiving. So today I'll also be referencing the National Institute of Health's Guide to Patient Advocacy to give you reliable, evidence-based advice on how to do just that. And as a side note, there is a lot of construction going on outside where I'm living at the moment. So if you hear some bangs and crashes, I do apologize, but it is what it is. And of course, there's also a disclaimer. This is for informational purposes only, and please consult with your own healthcare team in regards to your own health. Let's start by talking about what it means to be your own health advocate. What is that? Being your own health advocate means taking an active role in managing your health and well-being. It's about asking the right questions, making informed decisions, and speaking up when something doesn't feel quite right. So why is this important? Well, medical appointments are often fast-paced. Sometimes doctors, nurses, specialists may not have all the time in the world like they'd like to in order to explain every little detail. From my understanding, they are 15-minute appointments. Specialists can get by with 20 to 30 minutes appointments. And a lot of the time they don't have control if they're working for an organization. These specialists and doctors, they don't have control over how long these appointments are. And they're double, triple, quadruple booked for that same time slot. So yes, it's a money-making industry for certain organizations. That's true. However, doctors are kind of bound by their work environment. And it's not that they don't care. It's just that they have a lot of appointments to get through. So it's super important at this point to be your own health advocate in order to get the care that you deserve. But you deserve to understand your treatment plan, medications, and any procedures being recommended to you. According to the NIH Guide to Patient Advocacy, people who take an active role in their own care are more likely to experience better outcomes. This includes everything from fewer medication errors to better overall health. One of the first steps to being your own health advocate is preparation. I think we've learned this in school. If you've been involved in any kind of sports, preparation is key. I always tell people never go to a medical appointment unprepared. Here's what I mean by that. So number one, we want to write down our symptoms. Before our appointment, we make a list of all the symptoms we're experiencing. It can be easy to forget something in the moment because we're hurried. The doctor seems kind of hurried. We may be a little nervous to be there. So it's important that we write down our symptoms beforehand and have them so we don't forget that. This helps ensure you don't leave anything out. Also, think about when your symptoms started, what makes them better and what makes them worse, and how do they impact your life. A really simple way to do this, we all carry around phones for the most part, and we can put our notes in the note section of our phones. If you don't like doing that, you can also use email. You can email yourself your information. And of course, there's the old-fashioned way, which is just jotting it down on a scratch piece of paper that we take with us. Number 2, we need to bring a list of our medications. So current list of medications, this includes over-the-counter drugs, vitamins, supplements, anything that you're taking, anything that passes those lips. So if we're taking magnesium for restless leg, or we can get that over the counter. If we're taking collagen, if you're taking calcium, if you're taking Tylenol, ibuprofen, anything like that, pseudoephedrine, because you have, you're congested and you're taking that. All these medications are important because the doctor and even the pharmacist, we can only help you so much as to the information that we have at hand. And these can all interact with each other. So it's important that you bring a list of your medications, everything that you're taking, even vitamin C, down to the vitamins. Doctors need to know this to avoid any possible drug interactions. Number 3, prepare questions ahead of time. This is critical. So write down any questions you have about your condition, any kind of medication questions that you have, treatment options, and even side effects. No question is too small here. Remember, it's your right to understand your treatment plan. The only silly question is the question that wasn't asked. So it's really, really important we have a list of questions. Number 4, if you can, bring someone with you. Bring a trusted friend or family member to your appointment. They can easily help you take notes during the appointment. Obviously, they're there for emotional support, and they can even ask questions you may not think of yourself, which is super important. I do this myself. I bring my spouse whenever possible to my appointments, and this has helped tremendously because inevitably I forget something. And yes, even I write my things down and I have my list of medications and I go through that beforehand. I do all these things and I still seem to forget at least one major important question that my spouse remembers. So this is really critical. If you can, please bring somebody along. If you can't, it's understandable, but at least you've prepared the other steps, so you'll do great. So now we've prepared for our appointment. Now comes the appointment. So once you're in the appointment, how you communicate with your healthcare provider is absolutely key. Don't be afraid to speak up. This is where we say speak up. And I'm really talking to the ladies here, the women, the females, because in our society, especially in the United States and throughout the world, women are taught to keep quiet and not speak up because we don't want to offend this healthcare provider. There is that God complex that people see as well with physicians, like they're above us in some way because they are very intelligent, obviously. We need to break that cycle, which is why I'm saying this. We need to learn to own our voices and speak up for ourselves. Don't be afraid to do that because 100% of the time it affects you. These people, while well-intentioned, it doesn't affect them 100% of the time. They're there to give you care. They go home to their families. So it affects you 100% and not them. So it's very critical that we get that into our head and that we learn to speak up for ourselves. That's advocacy. So let's talk about some ways we can make our voices heard. Number 1, be honest and clear. When describing our symptoms, be as honest and specific as possible. If something feels painful, uncomfortable, or you just feel off, don't downplay it. It's also okay to talk about your emotional or mental well-being, as that can play a big part in your physical health. So I always like to say where our mind goes. So if we are really down, our health goes. So it's proven in studies that if we're down a lot, it suppresses our immune system. So we get sicker more. We have more chronic illness and more chances to end up in the hospital, heart attacks, strokes, things like that. So it's very, very important that we speak up about that. I'm a huge advocate for mental health and well-being. And also, if you have this gut instinct that something's just not quite right, I know too many people that they think something's wrong, and they push and they push and they push. And they do. They find out they've had breast cancer or colorectal cancer. Had they waited, I don't like to think about the outcomes on that. So it's really important. Listen to your gut instinct, trust that gut instinct, and speak up. Number 2, after be honest and clear, ask for clarification. If your doctor uses terms or they explain something that you don't understand, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. You can say things like, can you explain that in simpler terms? Or what does that mean for my treatment? It's okay to ask questions. They prefer that you ask questions because it kind of slows them down in a way, because they're so used to just kind of giving the information. With an engaged person, I've seen specialists and doctors just kind of light up like, oh, this is great. You're actively involved. They like to see that. So ask for clarification. If you don't understand something, just simply ask. Number 3, discuss your concerns. If you have questions about the recommended treatment or the medication they're prescribing, it's important to voice them. Ask about the risks of these treatments or medications. What are the benefits of them? And if there are any alternative options, you can say, are there other treatments that could work for my condition or diagnosis? Or what are the potential side effects of this medication? Or how long will it take for me to see improvement in my condition? So these are really, really important and vital to your own health and well-being. So obviously it's very, very important to discuss your concerns with your healthcare provider. And number 4, take notes. Take notes, take notes. It can be helpful to take notes during the appointment. If you have somebody that you brought along with you that can take the notes, that'd be even better, because then you can focus on what the physician is saying. Or ask your doctor if you can record the conversation. Sometimes they allow that. Other times they don't, and that's okay too. But it doesn't hurt to ask. So it's important that you do ask, hey, can I record this conversation for later? That way you can refer back to it if you need to. Okay, so we've prepared for the appointment. We've been through the appointment. Now what do we do afterwards? So after the appointment, your role as your own health advocate does not stop. There's still important steps to take to ensure you're on track with your own healthcare. Number 1, review your notes. So it's like going back to class, and I know this may be traumatizing to some people. It's important though. We need to review our notes and to know exactly the steps forward and what we need to do. If we forgot something maybe in the moment, it's always important to review our notes. Go over your notes you took, listen to the recording if you're allowed to take a recording. This just helps make sure you understand the next steps in your treatment plan. Number 2, follow up on lab results. A lot of time we get sent to the lab for blood work. So if you were sent for blood work, don't assume that no news is good news. We always say that, no news is good news. I always think that too, but don't ever assume that. Be sure to follow up. Be proactive. If something doesn't seem right, or if you have questions about your test results, schedule a follow-up appointment. And sometimes you can talk to a nurse online and they'll talk to you. Or they have those wonderful patient portals where you can go online and you can ask your doctor the questions about your labs, and they can do it then too. So that way you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home. Number 3, stick to the treatment plan. it's important to follow through with any treatment plan or medications prescribed to you by your doctor. If something isn't working for you though, or if side effects are making life extremely difficult or impossible, reach out. Reach out to your healthcare provider right away, either by phone or those medical portals. Reach out. Remember, you can always adjust the plan, but staying in communication is crucial for this point. And I know a lot of well-intentioned people, there are a lot of new medications out all the time, and you see, in the United States anyway, you see a lot of medical commercials. So there are a lot of well-intentioned people out there that will tell you, oh, you're on that medication, don't be on that medication. And they're well-intentioned. However, your physician knows your medical history much better than a well-intentioned person, a family or family member or friend. So just remember that. If you have concerns, please speak to your healthcare prescriber first and talk to them. And as far as the medications, that's one other thing I wanted to mention. A lot of the time, these medications are very, very expensive, and our insurance companies may not cover the whole cost or any of it. So when you're in the appointment, and I apologize for not mentioning this sooner, when you're in the appointment, ask if there's a generic version. Ask if there are programs that can cover a partial cost or the whole cost, because for a lot of medications, especially the more expensive ones, there are with either the drug manufacturing company or through some other sort of program. It's really important that we speak up, and that's all a part of being a health advocate. It's super, super important. So get a good relationship with your personal physician, because it can mean the difference between a great life and one that's filled with, just a lot of health issues. Number 4, moving along, keep records. So maintain a personal health record. So while your physician maintains one at their practice, keep one for yourself. This can include a list of your medications, obviously over-the-counter medications too, the vitamins, the supplements, everything you're taking, your health history, your surgeries. So if you've had a hysterectomy, or if you've had a tonsillectomy, anything like that, appendectomy. So list those, and any other chronic conditions that you may have. So keeping all of this in one place makes it easier to provide your doctor with accurate, up-to-date information at future appointments. It's also great to have it in a place where if you have a medical emergency, which we hope that you don't, if you do, you have it, you can give it to the medic, and then they have all that information. Or if you have a loved one that can get to that information, they can give it to your healthcare provider. That would be fantastic. It just helps you out. It could be the difference between life and death too. So we've gone through the preparation, we've gone through the appointment, we've gone through reviewing the notes and talking to our physicians and everything else. But the hard question comes, when is it time to get a second opinion? Is it needed? So sometimes after an appointment or multiple appointments, you may feel uncertain about the diagnosis you're given or your treatment plan. In these cases, please don't hesitate to get a second opinion. This is a big one. It's your health again, and seeking another person's perspective can sometimes bring clarity or an alternative treatment option or options to the table that you were completely unaware of. It affects you 100% of the time. I'm going to keep saying that. It affects you 100% of the time. Wherever you go, there you are. So it's important that if you feel that something's off and it's just not getting better, it's okay to ask for a second opinion. It's encouraged. And again, it's your health 100% of the time. So for instance, as this has happened to me on multiple occasions actually, and to people that I know and love. So I went in and was told that I needed a hysterectomy. And I have a complicated medical history I have multiple autoimmune diseases and things like that. So I went and I got a second opinion. And while my medical provider at the time, they were not happy with that. They were not happy. They had set me up for hysterectomy, and I found another option. And I'm happy to say that here I am a few years later, and I am so happy I went with a different treatment plan. I did not go through with the hysterectomy. It would have been probably really bad for me and my own conditions. So I got a second opinion, and I'm really happy. And I remember the healthcare provider that recommended the hysterectomy still, a year later was still, you're going to need a hysterectomy. It's just going to happen. I haven't needed one, and I'm fine. So I'm just really pleased with getting a second opinion. That's just one case scenario. But it's also okay to get a third opinion if you need it. You exhaust all avenues if you need to. It's your health. Again, 100% of the time. So the NIH, National Institutes of Health, recommends getting a second opinion when, number one, you're faced with a major diagnosis or treatment decision. So for me, it was the hysterectomy. That's what triggered that. I had another surgery too that I needed done, and I got a second opinion, and I'm really happy I did that one too. So number two, the NIH recommends a second opinion when your symptoms persist despite treatment. That seems like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people just stay and they're miserable. Number three, you're feeling unsure or you're feeling uncomfortable with your doctor's recommendations. Getting a second opinion does not mean you do not trust your doctor. And I think that's where we get tripped up. And I think maybe that's where some of our physicians feel slighted. But it's not about them. We have to remember it's about us. It just means you're being thorough and exploring all your options for your health 100% of the time. So they can get over it. You need to do what's best for yourself. So, to wrap it all up, this has been a long one. Being your own health advocate it's about being prepared. It's about being prepared. It's about communicating clearly, and it's about following up after your appointments. You have the right to understand your health, and you have the right to be an active participant in your own care. You're not there just to passively sit there and allow somebody to tell you what to do. You are a co-pilot, I like to say. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to raise your concerns, voice your concerns, and take control of your own health journey. After all, 100% of the time it affects you. So thank you so much for tuning in today into the Wellness Pharmacist podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. And as always, feel free to reach out with any questions or suggestions for future episodes at innovationsmedicationmgmt@gmail.com. That's innovationsmedication, M as in Mary, G, M as in Mary, T, @gmail.com. And until next time, take care of yourselves and be well.